If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
Historic change. Barack Obama is elected the nation's first African-American president. This is the CBS Morning News for Wednesday, November 5th, 2008. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Gielan. 4 years ago, Barack Obama was a little-known Illinois state senator. In 76 days, he'll be sworn in as this nation's first African-American president. The election drew a record number of voters, over 130 million. Obama won the popular vote over John McCain, but took the Electoral College in a landslide, defeating McCain in several hard-fought battleground states. Obama was the winner in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, the first Democrat to win there in 40 years. Joel Brown's in Chicago with more this morning. Good morning, Joel.
Michelle, good morning to you. Chicago was electric last night. This city's favorite son is headed to the White House. The majority of the nation bought into the message he's been selling for the last 2 years, and they chose change. The face of American politics will never be the same.
Because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
Barack Obama overpowered John McCain across the electoral map, winning over working-class voters, moderates, and independents. Both campaigns spent months courting 4 key battleground states: Ohio, Florida, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Obama won them all.
The American people have spoken, and they have spoken clearly.
While they celebrated in Chicago, they mourned in Phoenix. After almost 2 years of campaign comebacks, John McCain couldn't pull this one off.
I don't know what more we could have done to try to win this election. Every candidate makes mistakes, and I'm sure I made my share of them.
It's hard to remember now, but Barack Obama was a virtual unknown just 5 years ago. Last night here at Grants Park, more than 100,000 people gathered to celebrate the end of one journey and the beginning of another.
The road ahead will be long. Our climb will be steep. We may not get there in 1 year or even in one term. But America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there. I promise you, we as a people will get there.
Barack Obama has made history. Now comes the hard part. Yeah, now the hard part. 2 wars, a financial crisis, not to mention a looming recession. All lies ahead for the 44th president. Michelle?
Joel, I have a million questions for you, but I'll keep it only to a couple. First of all, has the president-elect talked at all about forming a transition team yet?
Well, as quiet as it's been kept, Michelle, that's a process that's been going on for the last few months or so. We may begin to learn a little bit more about the game plan of transition towards the end of the week, maybe Friday, with some cabinet member appointments, some important cabinet member appointments trickling out maybe as soon as early as next week.
Interesting. And what about, has there been any reaction from President Bush this morning?
Well, you know, he phoned both candidates, McCain and Obama, last night, congratulating them on a hard-fought race. But really, he's been the missing character in Campaign 08 so far, largely because he had to. He was a drag on the Republican ticket with his historically low approval ratings at this point, really hovering around 20% or so. But he's back in it now. The election is now over. He'll speak from the White House later this morning, talking about the election and also promising a smooth transition to the president-elect.
Okay, Joel Brown in Chicago, thank you. Obama's historic victory triggered emotional celebrations from coast to coast. A massive crowd gathered on Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House. In New York's Times Square, the celebration was reminiscent of New Year's Eve. People were screaming and drivers were honking their horns. Hundreds gathered in the streets of Seattle to celebrate Obama's victory. And in Africa, Obama's Kenyan family celebrated his election to the White House. In his concession speech, John McCain told supporters he's disappointed, but that the failure was his and not theirs. Susan Roberts is in Phoenix. Good morning, Susan.
Michelle, good morning to you. John McCain will be spending the day with family and close friends in his Sedona, Arizona home. He knew that he was the underdog going into this one, but he's come from behind before. This time around, it was just not meant to be. He needed to win all of the red states Bush won in 2004, plus several key battleground states. When it became clear here in Phoenix at the Biltmore he would lose Pennsylvania and then Ohio, the mood definitely changed inside the election headquarters. Throughout this campaign, John McCain knew he was not only fighting his opponent, but also a movement.
In a contest as long and difficult as this campaign has been, his success alone commands my respect for his ability and perseverance. But that he managed to do so by inspiring the hopes of so many millions of Americans who had once wrongly believed that they had little at stake or little influence in the election of an American president is something I deeply admire and commend him for achieving. And I pledge to him tonight to do all in my power to help him lead us through the many challenges we face.
Going into this, McCain was up against a very unpopular president, a tanking economy, and the most well-funded and organized presidential campaign in history. And in the end, Michelle, it just proved to be too much.
Susan, what are plans for Sarah Palin not only today, but for the future?
Well, we understand that Sarah Palin was here at the Biltmore a little bit later than many had expected, greeting people, talking with campaign staffers and supporters, and basically just having a really good time. She is on her way back to Alaska, but she herself has said she's not ready to exit this political stage just yet. We probably have not heard the last of Sarah Palin, Michelle.
Okay, Susan Roberts in Phoenix. Thanks. In the Senate races, the Democrats expanded their majority control. They gained at least 5 more seats, but Democrats did not reach the filibuster-proof 60 votes that they would need to stop Republicans from blocking bills and judicial nominees. 2 incumbent Republican senators were defeated. In North Carolina, Elizabeth Dole lost to state lawmaker Kay Hagan. In New Hampshire, Jeanne Shaheen beat incumbent John Sununu. But Republican Minority Leader Mitch McConnell held on to his seat in Kentucky, and in Alaska, incumbent Ted Stevens is leading despite his recent conviction on federal corruption charges. In Minnesota, the race is still too close to call between incumbent Norm Coleman and challenger Al Franken. And in Oregon, incumbent Republican Gordon Smith is in a photo finish with Jeff Merkley. Democrats also expanded their control of the House and produced historic gains in their majority. The new House looks like this so far. It'll have 252 Democrats, 173 Republicans. There are still 10 races that are still undecided. That's a net gain of 17 seats for the Democrats. Democrats achieved those gains partly by increasing their dominance in the Northeast, ousting 22-year veteran Chris Shays of Connecticut. Republicans now hold no House seats in New England. Another sign the Democratic sweep in the East. For the first time in 35 years, Democrats will hold every seat in New York City's congressional delegation. Out west in New Mexico, the Obama coattails helped Democrat Martin Heinrich, and Henry Teague won House seats Republicans had controlled for decades. This is the first time in more than 75 years that the Democrats have won big House gains in back-to-back elections. They picked up 30 seats in 2006. Well, just ahead on the morning news, overseas stocks get a post-election surge. Plus, some Mavericks were winners last night, but these wore short pants.
5-point lead, 12 performer.
On the CBS News Money Watch, stocks in Asia got a big boost after Barack Obama's election win. Claire Lake is here in New York with more. Good morning, Claire.
Good morning to you, Michelle. The big unknown that's been hanging over financial markets around the world has finally been lifted. Asian stocks rallied overnight as the U.S. elected Obama president. Japan's Nikkei surged 4.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index jumped nearly 4%. The gains came on the back of Wall Street's biggest election day rally ever. The Dow starts starts the day up more than 300 points. The broader market S&P 500 surged 4%. Analysts say now that the uncertainty over the next president is gone, the market typically sees a post-election bounce through the end of the year. But the futures are pointing to some profit taking at the opening bell right now, and European markets are lower. Now, Obama inherits a big financial mess that will likely get worse before it gets better. Consumers and businesses are sharply reducing their spending, and the government is awash in red ink. Investors want to know what Obama is going to do now to boost the sagging economy. Obama's victory will give labor unions and the auto industry an ally in the White House. Analysts also expect another fresh economic stimulus package as well. But drug and oil companies are expected to come under pressure from Obama's tax and health care programs. Now, oil prices are slumping to $68 a barrel this morning after yesterday's election day surge. Investors are worried that a slowing global economy will cut demand for crude. Michelle?
Claire Leka here in New York. Thanks.
You bet.
Straight ahead, your Wednesday morning weather, and in sports as in politics, it was the Blues against the Reds on the football field.
He could take this all the way. James.
Here's a look at the weather in some cities around the country. New York, windy with rain, 64. Miami, 78. Chicago, 74. Denver, scattered flurries, 29. Los Angeles, 66. And time now for a check on the national forecast. The latest satellite picture shows that skies are gray across the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastline. There are also storm clouds swirling across the Rockies and the plains. Later today, rain will become heavy along the northeast coastline. Strong thunderstorms will be developing across the plains. It'll become much colder there, with rain changing to snow across the Rockies. Some Mavericks are winners this morning in sports. Dirk Nowitzki scored 30 points for the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. Dallas beat the San Antonio Spurs 98-81. It's the Spurs' worst start in 35 years. Shaquille O'Neal was 7 for 9 from the field for the Phoenix Suns, scoring 18 points and 6 rebounds. Phoenix shot 63% from the field and never trailed. The Suns eclipsed the New Jersey Nets 114-86. Boston's Ray Allen scored 29 points, including several key three-pointers. The Celtics beat the Houston Rockets 103-99. And in college football, both Miami of Ohio and Buffalo wore their home uniforms last night. You see, Miami's uniforms are red, Buffalo's are blue, which is how their states voted in the last presidential election. And just like this year's election, the blue team, Buffalo, won. The score, 37-17. When we return, another look at this morning's top stories, and we'll go to Chicago for more on Barack Obama's victory speech.
Because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
On the CBS Morning News, here's a look at today's weather. It'll be turning sharply colder across the western plains and upper Midwest, where strong thunderstorms are likely this afternoon. Elsewhere, it'll be stormy along the northeast coastline. As we've been reporting, Barack Obama has been elected this nation's first African-American president. Obama won the popular vote, leading his party to a decisive sweep of Congress. Obama easily won the electoral vote, taking several hotly contested battleground states like Ohio and Republican strongholds like Florida and Virginia, which hadn't voted Democratic in 40 years. In his hometown of Chicago, nearly 250,000 supporters gathered to celebrate. Drew Levinson is there.
Michelle, it was an historic night here in Chicago and in America. Barack Obama will be the 44th president of the United States and the first African-American elected to the Oval Office. Barack Obama savored the moment.
Tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
Obama clinched the 270 electoral votes needed to become president, winning over white working-class voters, moderates, and independents. Hundreds of thousands of people jammed Chicago's Grant Park to celebrate the election. of America's first African-American president.
The true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals: democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope.
Obama's victory begins a new chapter that many Americans never imagined they'd live to see. There was one light moment during the speech. Barack Obama spoke to his two small daughters. He said, "You know that puppy we talked about? Well, we're going to get it and take it to the White House." In Chicago, I'm Drew Levinson. Michelle.
Drew Levinson in Chicago. Ultimately, John McCain could not overcome voter fears about the economy and the President Bush's historically low voter approval ratings. Exit polls showed 85% of the electorate worried about the direction of the U.S. economy, and 71% disapproved of the way the president is handling his job. Manuel Gallegos was in Phoenix as McCain delivered his concession speech.
Well, Michelle, here in Phoenix, we heard a remarkable and gracious concession speech from John McCain. He applauded Barack Obama's historic victory, and when the crowd here tried to boo or jeer at Obama's success, he just wouldn't tolerate it. The Maverick didn't make it. John McCain's come-from-behind win never panned out.
It's natural tonight to feel some disappointment, but tomorrow we must move beyond it and work together to get our country moving again.
Despite wins in traditional red states, McCain just couldn't clinch without wins in key battleground states like Pennsylvania and Ohio. Many voters linked McCain to President Bush, and they felt his running mate Sarah Palin was too inexperienced.
Though we fell short, the failure is mine, not yours.
He was the reformer, the maverick, even the real American. But in the end, John McCain failed to clinch the title of president. Well, in a phone call between Obama and McCain, Obama told McCain that he showed honor and class during his campaign. Obama also told McCain that he is going to need his help to help this country move forward. That's the latest here from Phoenix. Michelle, back to you.
Manuel Gallegos in Phoenix. Well, this morning on the Early Show, full election coverage, analysis, and results. I'm Michelle Gielan, and this is the CBS Morning News. In his victory speech, Barack Obama told supporters change has come. Nearly 143 years after slavery was abolished in this country, an African American has been elected president.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America. I was never the likeliest candidate for this office. We didn't start with much money or many endorsements. Our campaign was not hatched in the halls of Washington. It began in the backyards of Des Moines, in the living rooms of Concord, in the front porches of Charleston. Now, I know you didn't do this just to win an election. And I know you didn't do it for me. You did it because you understand the enormity of the task that lies ahead. For even as we celebrate tonight, we know the challenges that tomorrow will bring are the greatest of our lifetime. 2 wars, a planet in peril, the worst financial crisis in a century. The road ahead will be long. Our climb will be steep. We may not get there in 1 year or even in 1 term. But America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there. There will be setbacks and false starts. There are many who won't agree with every decision or policy I make as president. And we know the government can't solve every problem. But I will always be honest with you about the challenges we face. I will listen to you, especially when we disagree. And above all, I will ask you to join in the work of remaking this nation the only way it's been done in America for 221 years. Block by block, brick by brick, calloused hand by calloused hand. And to those Americans whose support I have yet to earn, I may not have won your vote tonight, but I hear your voices. I need your help, and I will be your president too. This is our moment. This is our time to put our people back to work and open doors of opportunity for our kids, to restore prosperity and promote the cause of peace, to reclaim the American dream and reaffirm that fundamental truth that out of many we are one, that while we breathe, we hope, and where we are met with cynicism and doubt and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. Thank you.
That is the CBS Morning News for this Wednesday. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Michelle Gielan. We hope you have a great day.